You know that feeling when you suspect your marketing, well, maybe isn't hitting the mark quite like it should.
Mm-hmm. Like maybe some of that budget is just disappearing somewhere.
Exactly. And look, we all know navigating this marketing world today, it changes so fast. It's tough.
Absolutely. And that's really why we wanted to do this deep dive today. We found this great resource,
Oh, yeah.
a recent episode from the 20-Minute Marketing Mastery podcast. It was called Data-Driven Brand Growth in the Age of AI.
Right. I saw that one. And it wasn't just like high-level fluff, was it? It promised actual strategies, things you could use.
That's the key, concrete stuff. So we've combed through it, really tried to pull out the most valuable bits for you.
So what's the plan then? What are we focusing on from that?
Okay, our goal here is to find those practical tactics you can, maybe even try out this week. We're zeroing in on three main things they covered.
Lay it on me.
First, a pretty potent strategy for organic growth on TikTok, surprisingly effective.
Okay, TikTok. Always interesting. What else?
Second, a method for really precise customer targeting, like hyper-targeting.
Ooh, okay. And the third?
And third, some really fascinating points on brand psychology, specifically how, colors and fonts can actually impact your sales.
Right, those subtle things. You know, the original podcast kicked off with this question that really stuck with me.
What was that?
It was about waste. Like, what if a huge chunk of your marketing spend, they threw out a number like maybe 67% was just gone?
Wow.
Not because your big ideas are wrong, but because of some subtle mistake, something you're maybe not even seeing.
An invisible mistake, yeah.
Exactly. So let's see if we can maybe uncover what that might look like for you.
Sounds good. Let's start with that first area then, organic growth on TikTok.
Yeah, TikTok. It feels like the Wild West sometimes, doesn't it? But they had a specific example.
They did, a really compelling one. This account, at Plant-Based Dude, apparently they gained, get this, 400,000 followers in 90 days.
Wow. 400K in 3 months. Organically.
Organically, zero paid advertising.
Okay, you have my attention. How? What was the magic formula? Let's unpack that.
They called it the Viral Content Blueprint. Simple name, but it seems effective. It's basically a three-part structure.
Okay, part one.
Part one is the hook, right at the start. They often use statements designed to, show social proof and make people curious.
Like what? Give me an example.
Something like, I spent $0 on ads to get these results. Instantly you're thinking, wait, how?
Okay. That's clever. It cuts through the usual ad noise. It feels more authentic, maybe.
Yeah.
Grabs you because it promises a secret.
Exactly. It taps into that desire for genuine success stories.
Okay, so that's the hook. What's the second part of this blueprint?
The second technique was using pattern interrupts, specifically jump cuts.
Jump cuts, like quick edits.
Yeah, roughly every 3 seconds, they said. A pattern interrupt is just, anything that breaks the viewer's expectation. An unexpected shift. Keeps you from just scrolling past.
Right. Shakes you up a bit, forces you to refocus,
Yeah.
especially on TikTok where attention spans are, well, short.
Very short. These rapid edits keep eyes locked.
Makes sense. Hook 'em, keep 'em watching. What's the final piece?
The call to action. So at Plant-Based Dude would offer something valuable, like a free template.
Okay.
But to get it, you had to send them a specific keyword in a direct message. A DM.
So not just a link in bio, a DM exchange. That's smart.
Yeah, it builds a list, but it's a list of really engaged people. They took an action, they're clearly interested, warm leads, basically.
So it's not just about views, it's about connection, turning that flicker of interest into something real. Do they have any data backing up the visual side of this?
They did. They mentioned a HubSpot stat, I think from 2024. Videos on TikTok with text overlays, they apparently get 112% more shares.
Whoa, double the shares just for adding text.
Seems like it. Suggests adding text helps grab attention and encourages sharing, boosts reach.
You know, what's really compelling here is how different this feels from, say, running Google ads.
Totally different approach.
Google ads is all about paying for placement, keywords, targeting demographics. This TikTok thing is about making the content itself irresistible.
Right. It spreads because people want to watch and share it, and it builds that direct DM list. It's a powerful alternative. Or maybe something you do alongside your paid stuff.
Yeah. Definitely a strong compliment.
Yeah.
Okay, super interesting. Let's shift gears then.
Absolutely. Let's move to that second big area, advanced customer targeting.
Right. This is where they went beyond just like age and location, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Into something deeper.
Much deeper. They introduced this idea of customer cloning.
Customer cloning. Okay, tell me more. It sounds a bit sci-fi.
Huh. Yeah, maybe a little. But the core idea is pretty grounded. You find your absolute best customer, like the one who brings in the most value over time, highest lifetime value, or LTV.
Okay, identify your MVP customer. Then what?
Then you analyze their digital footprint. You try to figure out what makes them tick online. Find others who behave similarly.
Digital footprint.
hmm
What does that actually mean? What are we looking at?
Well, the podcast suggested a few things. Data from platforms like Meta Ads can hint at browsing history. What sites do they visit?
Okay.
Also, their Spotify playlists. What music do they like? What might that say about their lifestyle or preferences?
Huh. Spotify playlists. Never thought of that for targeting.
Yeah. And also, where do they hang out online? Like Reddit or Twitter? Which specific subreddits or accounts do they follow or lurk in?
So you're building this really granular picture of their online life, not just demographics, but actual interests and behaviors.
Exactly. A detailed digital persona of your ideal buyer.
And the cloning part comes next.
Right. You take that detailed profile and you mirror it when you set up your ad campaigns.
So instead of just targeting, say, CFOs aged 45, 55.
You target people who are CFOs and they listen to the Indicator podcast and they're active on the iFinancial Modeling subreddit and maybe they even use Monzo Bank. See how specific that is.
Wow, that is incredibly specific. Did they have an example of this working?
They did. A B2B sauce company, apparently using this kind of hyper-targeting, focusing on those very niche interests of their ideal CFOs.
Yeah.
They increased conversions by 217%.
217%, just from getting that targeted.
That's what they reported. It really shows the power of moving past those surface-level metrics, understanding the nuances of your best customer's online world.
That's a game changer. That level of precision, you just can't get that with traditional broad targeting.
Not even close. Okay, ready for the third piece.
Let's do it. Brand psychology, right? Colors and fonts.
Exactly. The stuff that often gets overlooked, but can have a surprisingly big impact on how people feel about your brand and, well, whether they buy from you.
Yeah, the subtle persuaders. So they talked about color hacks that sell. What were some examples?
Okay, so they mentioned blue, often linked to trust, stability, makes sense for finance, healthcare, right? Where credibility is key.
Sure, yeah. Classic corporate color for a reason.
Then yellow. Tends to create a sense of urgency. Think clearance sales, limited time offers. Grabs attention.
Get it now. Okay. What else?
Black often signals luxury, sophistication. But they added a little caveat there.
Oh.
Said it often works best paired with, like, metallic accents, gold, silver. Really enhances that premium feel.
Interesting. It's amazing how these basic colors carry so much psychological weight.
Yeah.
But they also warned about font crimes.
They did. And this one was pretty stark. They quoted a stat, I think, from N Group.
Yeah.
Using Comic Sans, it can actually slash the perceived value of your brand by 34%.
34%.
Right.
Just for using Comic Sans. Ouch.
Big ouch. It just screams unprofessional, you know? Kills credibility. A huge reminder that every single visual choice sends a message.
Absolutely. Whether you mean it to or not.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just about the big stuff like logos, right? They had a tip for something unexpected.
Yeah, a pro tip for your 404 error page. You know, the page not found page.
Usually just an annoyance.
Right. But they suggested making it an opportunity. Inject some humor, maybe add a discount code right there.
Huh. That's brilliant. Turn that little moment of frustration into a positive interaction, maybe even a sale.
Exactly. Find those unexpected touch points. It just drives home how all these things, colors, fonts, even your error pages, they all add up. They shape how customers see you and whether they decide to click buy.
Totally. Okay, so let's maybe recap the big takeaways from this deep dive.
Sounds good. So summarizing our look into that data-driven brand growth podcast, we've got 3 key areas with some really actionable stuff.
Okay, first up was that TikTok formula, the viral content blueprint.
Right. Using a hook with social proof, keeping attention with those pattern interrupts like jump cuts.
And then building leads with that DM call to action for something valuable.
Exactly. Then second, we dug into customer cloning for hyper-targeting.
Yeah, finding your best customer, analyzing their specific digital footprint, browsing, Spotify, Reddit.
And mirroring those niche interests in your ads for potentially huge conversion lifts, like that 217% example.
Crazy. And finally, brand psychology, the power of the visuals.
Yep. Using color strategically, blue for trust, yellow for urgency, black for luxury.
And avoiding those font crimes like Comic Sans. Remembering that typography seriously impacts perceived value.
Plus, that clever tip about optimizing your 404 page with humor and maybe a discount.
Great summary. Okay, so to make this really practical for everyone listening, maybe a quick action plan.
Good idea. Okay, here are a few things you could try. First, take one of your ads that isn't doing so great. Look at the first 3 seconds. Does it really hook attention? Does it use any kind of pattern interrupt?
Okay, audit an underperformer with that 3-second rule in mind. Good one. What else?
Second, maybe put on your detective hat this week. Try to research the online habits of your best customer. Where do they actually spend time? What do they listen to? What groups are they in? You might be surprised what you find.
Be a digital anthropologist for your top client. I like it.
Yeah. And third, the original podcast mentioned a brand color cheat sheet. We don't have the link, obviously, but maybe do a quick search for resources like that. Could spark some ideas for your own brand's palette.
Good suggestion. You know, the original podcast also asked their listeners to record before and after ad examples for a potential critique.
Right, that was their specific call to action.
Yeah, but the underlying point is solid for everyone. Keep testing, keep tweaking, keep refining your own stuff based on what works.
Absolutely. So maybe the final thought to leave everyone with is this. Think about those unseen elements in your marketing right now. What small tweaks, based on data, based on psychology, could make a difference? Which of these ideas, TikTok, cloning, brand visuals, feels most relevant to you right now?
Yeah, what could you experiment with first?
Yeah.
And what might you learn about your audience, maybe something unexpected, when you start looking a little